Hey everybody, so I have here on me the Meizu 16S. So this is the new flagship from the Chinese phone company, and for this price I think you're getting a pretty good deal. So this phone starts at 3,200 RMB, which is about 460 US dollars for the base model, 6 gigs RAM, 128 gigs of internal storage, and it goes up to about 600 US dollars for the 8 gig RAM, 256 gigs of internal storage version. Also, for that much money, you also get a Snapdragon 855 chipset in there and a 6.2 inch OLED display with an in-display fingerprint reader. It's an optical fingerprint sensor that works very fast and very accurately. It's from the same company that made the fingerprint sensor for the Huawei P30 Pro and the Oppo Reno. So you notice that the Meizu 16S doesn't have a notch or a cutout. Instead, it has a traditional forehead bezel. I mean, other than Sony phones, this might be the only phone left in the entire world that still has a forehead bezel. But you know what? I actually don't mind, because check out how thin the top bezel is. I honestly think if you can get your bezel this thin, then I don't mind having this instead of a notch. In fact, if you put this side by side with phones that supposedly have no top bezel, like an iPhone 10 or a Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, you see that the Meizu 16S's top bezel is actually just slightly thicker. So it's not really that bad, and instead you get a much more symmetrical look. So I think it's pretty impressive that Meizu managed to make the top bezel that thin and still crammed a 20 megapixel selfie camera on there. I mean, it's kind of a pretty impressive craftsmanship, and that's been a trademark of Meizu brands, because even though it's a relatively small brand, its craftsmanship has always been very good. Like years ago, they used to make these really cool metal phones, and this phone's construction, it's very nice. So you have a glass back, it's very sturdy, everything feels very nice as one piece. And I'm also happy to report that this is like a nitpick of mine. This part of the phone where the screen ends and where the chassis begins, on a lot of mid-tier Chinese phones such as the OnePlus 6T, Vivo Nix, Vivo Dual Display, whatever, Oppo Reno, Oppo R17 Pro, this part of the phone is always a little bit abrupt, a little bit sharp, and that's the case with the Xiaomi Mi Mix 3 and Xiaomi Mi 9 too. Only on flagship phones from the really big names like Samsung, Apple, LG do you get a corner that's actually smooth. And you can add Meizu to the list now. This phone actually has a pretty smooth edge right here. Like, this is not abrupt and sharp like you would find on the OnePlus 6T. It's hard to show on camera, but just take my word for it, man. I test every new phone that comes out, and I'm nitpicking right here, but that's the point of reviewing phones, right? Like, this is a $450 phone, but it has a build quality of something closer to like 800 bucks, 900 bucks. And it feels weird to say this, but because this phone has a 6.2 inch screen, which is smaller than a lot of what other phones offer now, this phone feels really small in the hand. Like, when I use this phone in one hand now, it feels a lot easier for me to move about than on my Huawei P30 Pro. The display looks great, viewing angles are excellent, although overall brightness is a little bit dim. Okay, now moving on to the cameras, the Meizu 16S has a 48 megapixel sensor with an f1.7 aperture. That secondary lens right here, it's a telephoto lens at 20 megapixels. This is not new. Meizu's had this for the past couple of flagships now. Basically how it works is the 20 megapixel will take a really large image that will allow you to zoom in more, and then the image signal processor will combine that data with the main sensor to produce what they call lossless zoom. So this phone offers up to 3 times lossless zoom, and from my testing, I think 2 times zoom is just about flawless, but 3 times zoom is slightly, you see a little bit of digital manipulation, digital processing right there, but it's still a relatively clean zoom. But of course, something like a Huawei P30 Pro and Oppo Reno has completely raised the zoom game, so having a 3 times lossless zoom isn't that impressive anymore. But still, for a phone at 450 bucks, I think the zooming capabilities on this is pretty nice. The camera app is very easy to use too. It's a swipe heavy interface, and unlike on the Huawei P30 Pro, everything can be reached by one hand. Like, I can zoom by just tapping the button right at the bottom. I can switch to the selfie camera down below. It's just a very smart app, easy to use. Okay, so now in terms of photo camera quality, I would say in general, the Meizu 16S's camera is good, pretty good, but not spectacular. Now, let me put it this way. If you're someone who doesn't upgrade phones a lot, and you just buy the 16S, I don't think you can have any problems or any complaints with the camera. Images come out very sharp. The shutter speed during the day is fast and snappy, colors are accurate, and you get a very punchy shot. But if you nitpick, if you're someone who uses a lot of flagship phones or a tech reviewer like me, then you pixel peep, then you can see that the dynamic range of the Meizu 16S is not that good. Sometimes the shadowed areas are a little bit too dark, and the HDR just doesn't kick in that intelligently. Like, see this shot right here, again, the plants are a little bit darker than how I saw in my own eyes. Like, with a better camera, this shot would be a little bit more vibrant. Like, the leaves would actually be green. Now at night, I think the camera performs admirably. In fact, I'm more impressed by the night camera than the day camera. I think color balance, it's very nice. The cameras cannot generate light out of nowhere like a Samsung Galaxy S10 or Huawei P30 Pro, but still, you're able to get a pretty nice, pretty punchy shot that's not completely drenched in shadow. Now, you do need to know what you're doing a little bit, but if you are able to fix exposure a little bit in the camera viewfinder and you have a steady hand, you're able to get some really, really nice night shots. Now, there's one major weakness to the Meizu 16S's camera. It's the bokeh portrait mode. So in general, if you stick with shooting portraits of one person or one subject, you'll be fine. But if you try to shoot of two subjects like what I'm doing here, you will have a problematic image in which you see that the blur I got confused and it blurred part of this female statue's body, and that's not ideal. And with a phone like a OnePlus 6T or a Samsung Galaxy S10 or a Huawei P30 Pro, those cameras are smart enough to identify both subjects and do the depth of field blur accordingly. But not the Meizu 16S. It kind of messes up the blur quite a lot if you're shooting more than one object. But I'm nitpicking. If you're taking a portrait mode with just one subject, then I think edge detection is on point and it's a pretty pleasing image. But that's only with the main camera. If you take portrait with the selfie camera, I find that to be fake as hell. Okay, apologies for the interruption, but I'm back home now editing the video, and I think I just saw a rat run by in the freaking corner. Something definitely just ran by in the corner. I mean, look at it. That's pretty crazy because that place I shot the video in, that's a new high-speed railway system that connects Hong Kong to China. It's super new. It costs like hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's a really nice fancy place. It looks like an airport in there. So I can't believe there's a freaking rat in there, man. Or maybe it's not a rat. I don't know what that is, but that shit look pretty huge, right? Okay, back to the video. Like, check out this shot right here. Like, it almost doesn't look natural. It almost looks like my head was CGI'd into like a computer generated graphics. This just does not look like a natural selfie depth of field at all. But that's just for selfie portraits. If you turn that off and you just take normal selfies, I think you'll get some pretty nice selfies. So overall, for $450, I don't have that much to complain about with the main camera. I'm talking about the still photography. It's a decent B+ camera. Now, I'm quite impressed by the video capabilities of the camera. So as you can see here, these are all 1080p footage. It's really, really smooth. That's because the Meizu 16S has OIS and EIS. I mean, check this out. I'm walking pretty fast and the footage is really impressive. This is better stabilization than on the Huawei Mate 20 or the Huawei P20, and those phones cost twice as much. Now, even at night, you see that stabilization takes a slight hit. Dynamic range, it's decent, but still pretty impressive video. Now, as for overall performance, this phone has a Snapdragon 855 inside, so do I even really need to talk about performance? It can run every app just fine. I've encountered no lag, no nothing. The software experience is pretty nice too. This phone runs on Android 9 with Meiju's software, which is called Flyme on top. This is version 7.3. So the biggest gripe that I have, and you probably will have too with Flyme, is that it doesn't have an app tray. So this annoys the hell out of me. But other than that, I really like the intuitive swipe gesture of this phone. It's really easy to use. It's a lot better than the Galaxy S10's swipe gestures, and you also have useful features like double tap to wake the screen, and the always on display also shows third-party notification. So in terms of battery life, there's a 3600 mAh battery inside, and it's enough to last me all day. Yesterday I started using this phone at 12 p.m. just about afternoon. I used the phone all day. I went out, had dinner with the girlfriend and the family and all that. I got home at midnight and the phone started 27 or 28% battery life. So definitely will last you all day. And I've used enough Meizu phones over the years that I know that the battery life is going to be good. You know what we gotta do? We gotta do a video speaker test. So I'm happy to report that the Meizu 16S has stereo speakers. You have sound coming from the bottom fine speaker and this relatively large earpiece. So the sound is pretty impressive on this phone. So we'll start at 50% volume. So sound's coming up from both, and now we'll go up to 100%. So yeah, this is a good screen for watching movies and music videos because it's an uninterrupted display, so no notch cutout, and you have good speakers. So ultimately, I like this phone a lot. I think Meizu has done a good job of finding a specific niche market to cater to. So these are the people who might be interested in this phone. If you hate the notch, if you just want a screen that's uninterrupted, but you don't want to deal with stuff like pop-up cameras and a second screen, then this is the phone to get because it's the only game on the market right now that doesn't have a notch and still has a traditional top bezel. I mean, Sony phones do too, but the Sony Xperia phones are not that good. And also, at a starting price of $450, this is a good value. I mean, you get a Snapdragon 855 at $450. This is why it always frustrates me when I watch US tech reviews and they'll just recommend a Samsung Galaxy S device or a Google Pixel and be like, oh yeah, it has the newest chipset, as if that's like the biggest selling point. But I mean, you're paying like what, $900 for the newest chipset and a Google Pixel when you have Chinese brands from Meizu, Xiaomi that give you the same chipset for like half the price. But I feel like US tech sites never cover that, like CNET, PCMag. They never look at it from that point of view. They just think, oh, you want a flagship chipset, you have to pay $900. No, you do not. $450, Snapdragon 855. And overall, if you're a big fan of like clean, minimalistic, industrial design, I think Meizu will impress you. This phone, this phone, the design doesn't grab your attention right away, but it's very nice, and when you use it, I think you'll admire all the little attention to details that Meizu has put into the phone. Now, see, I wish that I had gotten the black reveal unit because check out how slim these bezels are. But because this one is white, you can still notice it. Imagine if the bezels here is black and then I have a dark wallpaper. This phone will look a hell lot more sleek. So if you're thinking of getting this, I would suggest getting the black phone and you're gonna have yourself a really awesome, sleek looking device. So this is the Meizu 16S. That's it for now. I'm gonna have more videos coming up on a bunch of other phones actually, including the Lenovo Z6 Pro, and probably a full review of the Oppo Reno, and a couple of other surprise devices. So if you're interested, please subscribe to my channel and follow me on Twitter too, at NixGadgetUp. I tweet a lot on there now about my opinions on phones and all that. So thanks for watching.